Hello viewers and welcome to the fourth round of the Racedepartment GT Championship here from Silverstone, the home of British motorsport. We've moved on from Brands Hatch and now we're past the halfway point in the season here at Silverstone. My name is Peter Lee and on the cameras tonight is David van der Veen, and joining me alongside me in the commentary booth is Casper Kawajachi.
Well, hello.
Casper.
Yes, hello, and this should be exciting.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a number of different GT cars here tonight, and Casper, which one do you think is going to come out on top tonight?
I mean, at the moment it looks very much like we have one of the Audis being very much on top in terms of pace, but I wouldn't count out pretty much any car at this moment since we have a lot of variety in the top 5 or 6 cars. I mean, about 3 different manufacturers.
Yes, definitely, and let's quickly go over to the Teams Championship then, the halfway point in the season. It is Finn Team there in the Audis that are leading at the moment, 115 points to Speedy Mike Racing's 61 points. And there is actually a mathematical chance that Finn Team could take the championship this evening, so that is something we're going to have to concentrate on this evening. Talking Door Racing just 5 points behind Speedy Mike, and they've been closing up in the previous few rounds, so Talking Door definitely knocking on the door for second position. Stay Puffed are in 4th position in the standings with 42, ahead of Redshift Racing and S56 tied on 31 points. 26 points for Flying Bollards, 20 for Priority 1, 6 for Copenhagen Apex, and 5 for Gainsco Racing, who are tied with DTK Racing. Sky Sport Speeds are on 0 points and -5 for both STR Racing and Team Oldman. So, Silverstone, a very different track to what we were at previously at Brands Hatch. And Casper, what do you think is going to be the key here in setup for a fast lap time?
I think this is a very balanced circuit. It requires a lot of downforce, but then again, a lot of the passing opportunities on this circuit happen on the straight, so you have to really take into consideration how much you're going to be battling throughout the race and how much you actually want to gain on pace in terms of corners. But I think this circuit requires a lot of high-speed balance, and especially through Maggots and Beckett's, it's always a very difficult challenge to get this any car really set up around here.
Yeah, definitely. And at the moment we see Thomas Tartler for Finn Team on first position on the grid at the moment, provisional pole position for Thomas Tartler, a time of 2 minutes 0.524, currently sitting 7/10 ahead of Erhan Jajovski. And Jajovski, he's had a win this season. He's also been very consistent and in the top 5 throughout, and he's also, we've got to remember, has commitments on the Racedepartment Stock Car Championship as well, so he's a very busy man in the sim racing world at the moment. Tartler's teammate Lepanaimi is in 3rd position at the moment, currently leading row 2. However, we would expect these times to fall down. Then have Kevrakedis in 4th position, 1.4 seconds down on Tartler. 5th position is Patterson, and then 6th position is Tobias Rona. But in 7th position we have a very special driver tonight, who is Dennis Lind. Who people may know from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship. So we're very excited to see how he's going to get on, and of course a professional driver in this series is always nice to see. And Casper, how do you think he's going to adapt to a virtual car against what he usually drives?
I think as far as I know, Dennis does do some sim racing from time to time, so he should be quite used to how this does. But I think that other drivers can, of course, a lot of the skill carries over, but it is quite, in my opinion, it probably is very, very different to driving on an actual circuit. And I think we're seeing that while he is competitive, he is lacking some pace to some of those fastest guys. This shows how, well, first of all, how competitive it is here to see a champion in a real-life series, in a real-life European-level series, kind of struggling to get to the top 3, but it also shows that basically how much work the guys on the front must put in.
Yeah, and we've seen that throughout the season, that Finn Team have been constantly battling in the top 5, and also Speedy Mite and Erhan Jajovski have also been battling within the top 5 throughout the season, and a lot of work has gone into these top teams. We've seen them throughout the week practicing on servers, so definitely throughout this week, throughout this series, we've seen drivers practicing a lot in this series just to get near the top. And I think for certainly Finn Team, who have had 4 quick drivers, and that's just paid off for them, and there is a chance that they can win the championship at this round, but with just 6 minutes to go in qualifying, it looks like they're going to take provisional pole position.
Yes, and I think it wouldn't be that much of a surprise considering their pace, and we're just going to have to see how well they do in the race, because of course it's a very long race, so all in all, the qualifying results won't really, shouldn't really matter that terribly much, although it is, as far as I know, quite difficult to overtake in these cars, from my personal experience. So we're going to just have to wait and see, but definitely a long race, and anything can happen.
Yeah, that is correct. A long race, 90 minutes of action ahead of us after the qualifying session. And of course, we do have a mandatory pit stop as well. And we saw at the Nürburgring at round 2 that Finn team made mistakes in the opening laps and they were on the back foot from the start. So mistakes can happen. We saw them happen to Saki Lepanaimi at Brands Hatch, where he came into contact with Jeffrey Tassenwar as well as they approached the pit stop phase. So definitely mistakes can happen, but you've got to say that at the moment Finn team are the favourites.
Yes, they are definitely the favorites, and I mean, at the moment their lead is absolutely immense. And honestly, at this point, they're very much. If they're not going to win it here, they're going to win it in the next round. I would have said, with unless something dramatic happens.
Yes, and of course we do have joining Erhan Jajovski in Speedy Might. We do have our usual commentator Lorenzo Bonda. He has switched from Talking Door Racing at Brands Hatch. He is now in the Speedy Might car, so we'll be looking out for him as well. He's currently sat in 10th position in the Ferrari, so obviously the setup of the Ferrari very suiting to Silverstone, and as we said, a lot of fast corners, but there's also slow corners as well. The newer section of the circuit, of course, the Loop and Village, all new sections that were added a few years ago, and those really did mix up the lap, because before that it was a very fast lap.
It was, and I think personally I prefer this version of the circuit, although I don't like the loop, the corner that looped itself, but I think I prefer the entirety of the flow of the circuit nowadays, although I do know that they have changed it quite significantly, and not everyone is happy with that.
No, but what it has added is some interesting corners, especially through the new wing that we have now from where the drivers will start into Abbey and Farm. Those very quick corners over 175 kilometers an hour, and then accelerating through Farm. One of probably the best overtaking positions as the drivers break over 230 kilometers an hour down to 90 kilometers an hour Village, and that is one of the few passing positions on this circuit, because the other two Cops, perhaps even Stowe, are very difficult for passing opportunities.
Yes, and honestly, at this point, I think the easiest passing opportunity is, of course, when somebody makes an error out of certain places, like specifically Maggots and Beckett's. It's very easy to make a mistake there and just not have enough speed to go on the hanger straight. So there are passing opportunities, but as you said, I think Farm is one of the most prominent ones around.
Yes, I'd say so as well. Though we've just got 2.5 minutes just over remaining in this session. Thomas Tartler remains on the top step of the grid at the moment, provisionally ahead of Erhan Jajovski, who's just leaped 600ths of a second ahead of Saki Lepanaimi. Fourth position is the first of the Nissans, that is Akis Kevrakedis in the Stay Puft racing car. Behind that we have Craig Patterson, who has been improving all season, it has to be said. Both drivers, in fact, in the McLaren 650S have been improving all season. Patterson in the Priority 1 Motorsport car alongside Cyril Sauce. We've said that there's been a mix of cars at the front, and it could be that we could have a new winner tonight.
We of course could, and I think it would be exciting to see, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, definitely, and of course we do have, in fact, Lorenzo Bonda has just jumped up to 7th position while we were talking, so Lorenzo improving all the time, and it seems that he's really suited to that Ferrari 488. We've got just 1 minute and 40 seconds to go here. We'd just like to remind our viewers that if you do have any questions, type them away in the Twitch chat and we will try to get to them, of course, in the live stream. And also, if you would like to have participate, it is possible. If you go on to Racedepartment.com and purchase our premium membership, you will have access to these leagues, and then you'll have the option to sign up to this championship. Of course, it is a teams championship, so the drivers do not matter as such as they would in a simple drivers championship.
No, but of course the driver always counts in terms of they do still have to drive the car. It's not that it's simply just a team that organizes everything, but you still have to have the drivers actually putting in the work.
Yeah, definitely. So we've just got under a minute remaining in this session. It does look like with a 6/10 gap at the moment, it's going to be Thomas Tadler who's going to take pole position here at Silverstone for round 4 of the Race Department GP Championship. In second place is Erhan Jajovski, ahead of Tadler's teammate Saki Lapanaimi. Fourth position is Akras Krevrakedis, ahead of Craig Patterson and Jeffrey Tassenwall. Lorenzo Bonda is currently in 7th position, ahead of Tobias Rona in the Talking Door Racing Nissan. 9th position is the other Talking Door Racing Nissan of Dennis Lind. Sorry, he's in the Redshift Racing Nissan, apologies. And he, of course, is a professional driver, so we'd expect him to be very consistent in this race, if anything. 10th position is the other of the Stay Puft Racing cars, that is Fev Gartos, and we're looking forward to an interesting race here, so join us in a few minutes and we will be back then for the race.
We're back with we're back with the race happening in about a minute and 20 seconds. We're waiting for Peter, our lead commentator, to come back, but we're about a minute and 10 seconds away, and it should be very, very exciting. And I think this will be a very interesting start because we don't have the both of the cars from Finn Team on the front. So at this point, it could be either one of two leading by the end of the start. It could be either our Finn Team's number 20, driven by Thomas Tatela, or it could be Jajowski in the Aaron Jajowski in the Ferrari 488. So we could see different. Well, we could see a different car on the start of or at the end of the first lap on the front, depending on, of course, which driver does better on the start. And with about 30 seconds to go, drivers should be getting quite excited, quite tense in those cockpits of their GT cars. Very, very fabulous looking grid. And here we go. Lights are about to start popping. And we should see a fantastic start. 4 lights, 5 lights, 6 lights, and off they go. The better start for the Ferrari. But at this point, we have Craig. No, there. Oh, a bit messy on the back. A bit of a crash. Yes, we have a crash. We have a spinning Lamborghini hitting another one of his teammates. Eugene Abramov, one of the drivers being in that accident. But at the moment, we do have a Ferrari in the lead, and he is in the lead of Thomas Tatela, actually, who has dropped behind his teammate, Saki Lepo. So the Finn Team Audis are actually in second and third, but they're under attack for third now. Tatela not having the greatest start I've ever seen, and Aaron just absolutely storming by. So at this point, there's an attack for third place. Jeffrey Tassenwall is right on the very back end of Tatela, and he is maybe going to attempt to move, but in that Nissan, which has such a great straight line speed, but he decides better of it. Into the first corner of the old circuit. Magazine Beckett will be crucial right now for Tatela to take it correctly without any smallest mistake, but he of course is in the draft of Sakalepa. He will have some problem with the understeer, but we'll see if that's going to affect him enough for Tassenwall to be close by, of course, who is affected by the Finn Team's driver in third place, who is actually attempting an attack on his teammate and actually pops out on his gear before even getting to the corner. Just stow up. There we go. But no, the top 4, actually top 6, 7 at the moment. Really, really close. And any small mistake from those drivers could end up being in a place lost or gained. There's a driver going wide in the back, Vasconcelos, but pretty far back in 24th place currently. Just a bit wide through the final couple of corners. Through Vale, to be perfectly exact. And I think we're having a bit of a scrap between Dennis Lind and Akis. There you go, Kevrakidis, who's actually side by side, although he has lost out on a place and now is defending from Tobias Roner, who has the inside for Brooklands. And let's see if he can actually keep that position. He goes up on the inside curb and cannot quite get by before the next corner. And now, you see a bit of contact between Lind and between Kevrakidis, who still has to defend from Roner, and now Lind is just running away. And Kevrakidis has to defend. But that has dropped Dennis and the pack a bit further back from Tasanoy and the Finn team and Ayovsky up in front. Very interesting to see. Again, the top four cars have 3 different manufacturers, and it seems like the cars are very well balanced. Absolutely, they have been updated since the last race, as far as I know. They have been changed by the Assetto Corsa dev team themselves, and they have been balanced to the point where we don't even need special balancing ballast at this point. And I think they have done a great job, considering these cars seem to all be very even on pace, and it's very much a driver's skill more than anything at this point. That is the most important in the battles. Tatella now back into second, who's now back, of course, into second place, is getting back on Yayovsky, although he's making a couple of mistakes through the first couple of corners. But last lap he did get closer by 0.2 of a second. Oh, there's a driver losing a place, and that's Kevrakidis actually making a mistake through Village and essentially letting Tobias Roner through with pretty much with quite a lot of ease, as it looked like. And there's a bit of a battle going on for 14th place between Marco Vector and Francisco Leme. Very, very close to the corners. Marco in that 650S McLaren, very good car for corners. Pretty much polar opposite to this Nissan, which is fantastic in a straight line, but it's absolutely terrible through any kind of quick corners or any kind of corners at all, really. And at this moment, you can really see that Nissan just cannot, at the same kind of speed, do the same corner without going wide, which very much shows you how different these cars can be and how they have been balanced, how difficult a job it is to balance a car like this. But I think, again, it's done in a pretty great way. I think it was balanced mostly by the tires, which is good to see. As we're seemingly getting a bit of a battle brewing again for first place, as I'm seeing actually another couple battles possibly. Actually, we do have a battle for P12 between Ali Ferry. Actually, it's a three-way battle for 11th. It's Ali Ferry fighting Sosei, and right behind them is Lorenzo Bonder, who is attempting a move on Ferry. So it's a three-way battle, and Ferry seems to be a bit quicker than the priority 1 driver. But Ferry makes a mistake, goes wide through the first corner and the second corner, and lets Lorenzo Bonder through, who's now going to be attempting to possibly make a move on the driver in front of him, so say. Could be it was a very small mistake, really, from Ferry, but in the first corner, you're going at such a large speed. As we actually have our lead commentator back, I think.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I apologise for all the problems I had. Literally, as we were about to start, I disconnected from everything. I'm currently rejoining the server, so hopefully I can get back into everything. But from what I've seen from the Twitch stream, it looks like a very interesting start to the race.
Yes, and we have a battle for the lead at the moment, actually. And the most interesting thing is, we have Ferrari in the lead currently, who's under threat from Tatella.
Wow,
So,
just repeating what he did in Nürburgring then.
A fantastic start. He made an absolutely amazing start, a lot better than Tatella, and now is very much under threat through Stowe, and literally just on the back wing. And we do have that speedy might Ferrari. Wow, that Tatella just making a bit of a mistake, going a bit too wide on the braking, catching a bit of grass, and while closing in a bit more, I think he lost time overall, but it's still about 8/10 of a second, and just one small mistake, similarly to what we've seen with Bonder and Ferry. Speaking of Bonder, he's also attacking Sosei at the moment. He's very, very close. Ferry on his back end as well, so this battle is still going on.
Yeah, we've got 3 different manufacturers in this battle. We've got the McLaren, of course, of Sorsay, got the Ferrari of Lorenzo Bonder, and of course behind that we've also got the Under Armour liveried Lamborghini that in 14th position of Ali Ferry.
And we have a crash. We have Sosei, who was hit by Lorenzo Bonder under braking into Village. That's going to lose like
that looks like they've both been able to get back on the circuit in relatively clean fashion. Hopefully they've not got any damage, but the gap at the front of the field has come down to 6 tenths now, so the Audi of Tatella now starting to charge back here, and we're just we're approaching a 10th of the way through this race, but already Tatella looking for a move. He darts to the right a little bit into Kops, but thinks better of a move from that distance, but he's back with Erhan Jajovski after Jajovski's brilliant start.
Yes, his fantastic start, and then it was very interesting because Tatella was actually under attack for losing 3rd place, let alone 2nd place, and now he's back on pace. So Tatella really just gaining pace over time. Seems like he was just not very confident.
Yeah, possibly missing the jump and not quite getting the clutch right, but it looks like Jajovski under pressure now from Tatella. The gap's just 2 tenths of a second. He moves out of the slipstream going into Stowe, but Tatella thinks better of it there as well, looking for a better move, possibly trying to find where Jajovski is slower than him. Looks again as they come into club corner, but again not able to make the move stick. But of course in 3rd position we have Tatella's teammate, which is Sakanaimi as well, so he's made a good start from his 3rd position grid spot.
Yes, very much so. And also what's very interesting at this point is I'm seeing that the Audi of the Finn team, at the very least of Tatella, it has a bit of an issue that I'm seeing a lot with. A lot of the high level drivers are really, really quick, as Tatella is. And they seem to forget that when they're racing, that their cars actually undergo something called slipstream. Because a lot of the time I'm seeing drivers behind others in a battle, topping out their final gear, as like they completely forgot that they'll need some top speed at times. And that's exactly what's happening to Tatella on Hangar Straight. And that's why I don't think he's ever going to be really having enough of a jump to overtake Krajewski.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Perhaps Tatella expecting to be at the front. I mean, with a 6/10 advantage in qualifying, you'd expect to be pretty dominant in this race, but Jajovski's start has just thrown a spanner in the works, and now he's just struggling to get through now. He's again topping out nearly as they come into Kops corner, and he's under 2 tenths behind, but 2 tenths behind isn't as good as in front is.
No, and I think honestly Tatella would be lapping a lot quicker. He is, without a doubt, at this point, the quickest driver on the circuit. If he can get a bit of fresh air in front of him, but at this point he is still behind Krajewski, who's making a bit of a mistake, to be fair, coming out of Chapel, but I think Tatella lost a little bit more earlier and he will not be able to even get side by side. And it's
No, it looks like he's good.
Up he's going.
Looks like he's going to have to stay right behind him at the moment, but further back we've got Nissan's in 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th position. In fact, we've got a battle for 6th position as Kevrakidis goes on the inside of Tobias Rona as they go into Stowe Corner. Kevrakidis getting the better of the fellow Nissan driver as they go down into Club.
At this point, it's so very close, and honestly, this could go into we have a battle through into Village. No, none of that kind of mistakes from Totella. He is so quick, but he does make quite a few mistakes, especially for the first corner.
Yeah, it looks like he's just been a little bit distracted by what Jajovski has been able to achieve off the start, and possibly not expecting to run behind a car and maybe not being able to see the corners quite as clearly as he would without a car in front. Has really not helped him at all, and obviously he's still able to stay behind, but as you said, these little mistakes aren't helping him trying to get to past.
No, not at all, and we also are having a pass for 12 places. I'm actually, as I was looking through, Fuller just overtook Lemme, and now, now Lem, or Lemme, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that name, is under attack from Sosei and Bonder. It's a very long train of cars that seemingly are very much quicker. But also what I'm seeing is Bonder will be pitting in very soon because he's seemingly nearly out of fuel at this point. That's very...
Yeah, he's down in 15th position at the moment.
Yes, that's very interesting to see.
It looks like he's on the back of that group. Looks like he's not able to make any moves at the moment on the McLaren or the Nissan. Having said that, the Nissan has been slow out of the corner. It looks like the McLaren and the Nissan are going side by side, so possibly a chance for Bonder to react as they go into Cop's corner, but not at the moment. And it looks like he's going to have to stay in that 15th position.
Yes, and honestly, as I said, I'm seeing a red notification of lack of fuel in the car, so that would signify to me that he's seemingly coming to the end of his fuel, which would be very interesting. He possibly forgot to put in fuel after the qualifying, but that would be a very weird mistake to make at this point.
I'm not sure if that is legitimate, because I've seen in the last few races that we've seen drivers have that fuel indication. For example, for me, he's not showing that. But at the moment, he's looking to make a move up to 14th. He's made slight contact, and is he going to make the move? No, not quite.
Yes, it could very much be just a glitch in Assetto Corsa. Yes, because he would be pitting in if he was lacking fuel. Actually,
but at the moment,
I think we do have a retirement, by the way. Cavillon is showing up as DNF for me. I haven't even cut that onto that before, but assuming that's one racer out of this race.
At the moment, though, we've got a battle at the front because Totella has managed to back up to Jajovski. He's made a few mistakes, only little mistakes, albeit, but little mistakes that can cost into big mistakes and multiply into big mistakes. And now he's right on the back of the Ferrari. But as you said earlier, Casper, he seems to be topping out in the straights, not thinking that the slipstream would be a big thing that he'd have to concentrate on.
No, and I'm seeing, and this is not the first time I'm seeing that problem, in fact, and I've seen many drivers who are very much quicker, and if they just had one more click on the final gear, they could have very easily overtaken drivers in Formula 1 style cars and GT style cars. It seems to be a common theme around drivers who just don't think they're going to ever be fighting other drivers, which is very interesting.
You'd think possibly the slipstream would be something that is in their mind at first, because at least to me, not being professional as these lot obviously, but to me you'd think that you'd have to think about that as a method of overtaking, because of course straight line speed is one of the easiest ways that you can overtake, just driving past another car. And at the moment though, it looks like Totella's not able to find that extra speed onto the straights that is going to mean he can get past.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. The Audi just not. I'm not sure. The Audi could also be slightly down on the straight line speed compared to the Ferrari, so that could also be a factor outright. Plus that fact of not having the car set up to the point where it has that ability to do so.
Possibly is a factor, definitely. But at the moment, it looked like we said earlier in the broadcast that the Finn team could take the championship at this round, and they're doing pretty much all they can at the moment to do that. Obviously, they could get past Jajovski, both of them, but at the moment it looks like Jajovski's very strong in the Speedmite Racing Ferrari.
As there's a bit of a battle going on for 12th place as Groff goes through and Sauce very much behind Lemay. And he's in early contact right there, but now Bonder is going to possibly use that to his advantage, going side by side with Sauce through Village.
Looks like he was going to try and make a move on the inside into the loop, but thinks better of it, trying to get the better line out of the left-hander and into Village. It looks like Sauce's gone off the grass a little bit, and they're going to go side by side, Aintree, as they go down the straight and towards Brooklands there. And it looks like the Ferrari is going to be on the inside. I did see that Lorenzo Bonda did make a mistake a few laps ago, but it looks like he's been able to immediately make up the time lost and get back onto that group, and now he's up into 14th position.
Lorenzo is not having the best race today, but he is showing some signs here and there of really good racecraft. And then sometimes he has a bit of lapse of judgment, maybe mistaking his braking points, but at this point he's doing quite well, and he is chasing down Lemay, who seems to be a bit off pace, but he is keeping up.
Yes, and the most important thing though is that he's in the points at the moment. Standing in for Jay Beckwith in that Team Old Man Nissan GTR. He took over at Brands Hatch, where he finished a very commendable 11th place, and it looks like he's going to repeat something similar to that in this race, around the top 10 to top 15 bracket. But at the moment it looks like Lorenzo Bonda has actually slipped back behind Cyril Sauce.
Must have been a move happening in through fast corners, maybe a mistake. It is very easy to do so, as we see Bonder actually making quite a few mistakes, just seemingly having not too much grip on the rear end. Possibly just...
That's definitely a possibility, perhaps not setting his car up quite correctly, but we've got a battle for the lead as Totella tries to go around the outside of Jajovski. Jajovski defending well as they go into Brooklands, and now through Luffield. Looks like Jajovski's going to be able to defend that inside line, taking a double apex approach to Luffield as he gets onto the straight now. But the Audi, as we've said, topping out on that straight line and still not able to get through, and we're now on lap 10, so we're nearly a quarter of the way into this race already.
Yes, and we should be seeing our pit stops in about probably 10-12 laps, so that should be interesting to see how whether Totella will be attempting to do a bit of an undercut or maybe overcut. I'm not entirely sure how long this fuel will last for.
Yeah, that's something he may have not taken into account as well, is that perhaps he expected to get out front and possibly go away with the win, as he did in Brands Hatch, as he did at Monza, and possibly with this he's not prepared for the possibility of having to do an undercut, and therefore not fueled enough in order to do that undercut or to do the overcut if he may need to.
Yes, and you always have to think of that, but then Danny Ayovsky will be on new tires. He could possibly be making his way a lot quicker. So it very much depends.
Yes, I think that we'll have to see what it is as we come to the pit window, but another interesting factor is that we've seen at the first two rounds, and not so much at Brands Hatch, but in fact at Brands Hatch we also saw Jeffrey Tassemois go long on his pit window, and the Nissan is actually very good on its tyres, we've found out, and can go a long way on the tyres, even to 3/4 of the way through the race in some cases. So that's something to watch out for as well, is that Jeffrey Tassemois may go to maybe even lap 30, lap 35 on this set of tyres, and then do a little bit of a splash and dash, possibly not even changing tyres, and then go to the end of the race. So very interesting strategies here. And just behind Tassemois we have Dennis Lind, who started in the top 10, of course our professional driver this weekend, and he's now into 5th position in the other Nissan for Redshift Racing.
Yes, and the Nissans here are seeming quite a strong car, in fact. They're not currently in the top 3, but the first Nissans are already the 4th car of the Talking Door Racing Tassino, as you say. And he's doing really quite well. He is 12 seconds behind the leader currently, but less than 10 seconds behind 3rd place. And that's quite good so far, considering we're already 11 laps in.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is that Nissans were about 7 tenths off the pace of the top 3, so even then, he's done very well to stay within the 10-second gap between himself and
as we have a
Lepo.
side-by-side move, maybe by Are we having a move by Tartella? There we go. There's a contact between Tartella and Jajowski as he was trying to go on the outside and he spins.
Tartella spins at Stowe and he's now dropped back to third position. You probably have a better idea of what happened there.
He went wide through Stowe, and he went onto the AstroTurf. The car was starting to lose it a little bit. He tried to counter-steer it, and that just went in a pendulum effect, and the car he couldn't control it anymore at that point.
Looks like he has been able to get back on and third position, but we've also got an incident for Roloff Groff down at Copse Corner. It looks like he's been able to get back onto the circuit, but he's now down in 22nd position. So yellow flags were out at Copse Corner, and it looks like Lorenzo Bonda has also made a mistake down there because he's dropped down the order from what I can see. No, in fact he hasn't. He's still in 13th position, so with our timing and scoring obviously, but back up to 13th position. In fact, he's got back past Cyril Sauce now as they come towards the end of lap number 11.
It was literally this lap, in fact. I think it was for Stowe.
Wow, brilliant move then for Lorenzo.
As we now have Lorenzo attacking Leme.
Looks like he might be able to make a move down into the first corner at Village, possibly. Not able to do it this time round.
Leme's pace is quite compromised, to be honest. The last lap was nearly 2:06, which is very slow.
Yeah, we did expect drivers to be a bit slower, of course, in the race, but perhaps not that much slower, as he was very close to the back of the Nissan through the loop section here, this newest section that they've added to Silverstone in recent years, and now he's right on the back of Lemmy. Let's see if he's accounted for that slipstream, and it looks like he has, because he's slowing it up on the brakes. He's going to go for the inside as they go into Brooklands. Lemmy looking to make that wider line and get on the inside for Luffield, but it looks like Lorenzo has been able to make that move, and he is now up into 12th position.
So that's Lorenzo in 12th place, and now Gajowski is not in the lead anymore. The Sakalepo Finn team has actually gone past him. He is gaining loads and loads of time at the moment. Gajowski having issues with tires.
Possibly not at this stage, but maybe a mistake earlier in the lap that we didn't see. And Jajowski's now got Tartler right behind him again, but it's now allowed Lepo to get back from third position as he was a few laps ago, now up into the lead of this race. So Finn team now first and third again, but with the driver order reversed.
Yes. And at this point, it's very interesting because this last lap, Jajowski's last lap was at 2:06.2. It seems like it wasn't just a single mistake, but it was him having issues recovering as well for the final sector. It's very odd, and he's now seemingly letting Tartella through.
Maybe he felt that the mistake and the contact that the two had earlier in the race was his fault, and perhaps not wanting a penalty from the stewards, he's decided to let Tartella back through. However, we'll have to see after the race and see if that is the case. The interesting battle now is between 4th and 5th position, Tassimore and Lind, who has been able to catch up in the last couple of laps after getting up into that 5th position, and is now challenging the Talking Door racing car of Tobias Rona. Sorry, Jeffrey Tassimore.
Yeah, Jeffrey Tassimore is definitely under quite a lot of pressure from Linton. That, of course, he is a driver that is to be feared, considering he is the champion of the Super Trofeo European Cup. So this is definitely, or championship, in fact. So this is definitely one that you would be afraid to see in your rear view mirror.
Yeah, of course, with those longer races that Super Trofeo runs, you'd expect Lynn to be able to run these long race distance consistently. We've seen that these last couple of laps, he's been reeling in Jeffrey Tassimore, and Jeffrey Tassimore, we know he's not a slow driver at all. He's been up at the top end of the field in all races, and now he's under pressure from Dennis Lind.
Yes, and I think Lind will be attempting to make a move, but then again, we must still remember we're not even halfway done with this race, as Lind makes a bit of a mistake in the final corner. Of course, there's still a long way to go, and anything can still happen.
And an interesting battle is now brewing again between 13th, 14th and 15th. Lorenzo Bonda has managed to escape this battle, but 13th position Francesco Lemmy ahead of Marco Watcher, and in 15th position is Cyril Sauce. So Watcher has got up into that 14th position, and now the two McLarens are challenging the Nissan as Sauce looks to the inside into Club, thinks better of it, moves back into the racing line as they come round to start another lap. But these three have been very close, and of course 15th position is the last point scoring position, so a very important position in that respect as well.
It's very important indeed, and they're not really under pressure from 16th place, but if one of them makes a mistake, it's very possible that they can lose the 10 seconds that they would need to fall back behind the currently 16th place of Papanoglu. And also, I think I'm seeing a bit of a possible battle going on.
Oh, Marco Watcher has had to spin up the loop. Sorry to interrupt you there, Casper, but it looked like there'd been contact between Cyril Sauce as Jay Beckwith went wide into the loop, and it looked like Watcher had nowhere to go and was then spun by Cyril Sauce. So looks like now we've saying about that mistake, and now Watcher is only 3 seconds ahead of Papanglo.
So at this point, we also have a battle for P5 between for P4 between Tassenau and Lind. Lind having a better run on Tassenau on the outside of Stowe, and he's not going to be making it. But he may be attempting an undercut and attempting a move into Club as there is a bit of contact. And Tassenau
very fierce racing there, but you have to say very fair, and it looks like Tassenau has gone wide and Lind has been able to get through, so Tassenau outbraking himself as they went into Club corner, and now Dennis Lind is up into 4th position.
Yes, and Lind makes a bit of a mistake again through the final corner, but Lind's up into 4th place, and now it's going to all he can do is attempt to try and chase down the leaders.
Yeah, now Tassenwar is now under pressure from Kevrakedis, who has also come up to this battle, and he looks like he's also going to be challenging for a top 5 position. Of course, Kevrakedis had a few good races in this season so far, but looking to improve on that, possibly with a top 5 position in this 4th round of the Race Department GT Championship. And behind that there's another Nissan GTR, so 4 Nissan GTRs in 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th.
The Nissan's really seemingly having a really good race so far, and you would think that they would on this track. While it does have very quick corners, the straights are also quite prevalent around here.
Yeah, that is very true. The 3 or 4 long straights that are all reaching over 250 kilometers an hour, so definitely the straight line speed of the Nissan, as we saw in Monza, also coming into effect here, but possibly more speed corners, not as favourable for the Nissan, but still able to hold on to those solid top 10 positions, even top 5 positions in the case of Dennis Lind and Jeffrey Tassenwar.
As also Marco Vector has spun out again and now let Papanglu into the 15th place, so we have a change for the final point scoring position.
Yeah, and we said that, didn't we, a few laps ago, that it could come down to that if one of them makes a mistake, and now multiple mistakes by the Gainsco number 73 has allowed the Lamborghini Huracan there through into 15th position, and we've now got a battle for 17th position as the Gainsco number 2 car of Sean Butters moves around the outside of Abramov as they go through the right-hander. We've also got another one of the Ferraris, that's Niemanen, coming through the outside of the Lamborghini. Up the inside into Stowe for the Lamborghini, but not able to make the move. Perhaps Niemanen looking through the outside there in the 04 Ferrari, but not able to make the move there either. But still, very close battle, even outside the points. And we now have Jeffrey Tassenwar in the pit lane.
And that would be our first of the scheduled pit stops. So Tassenwar possibly trying to get a bit of an undercut on Lind and attempting to regain that position if he can. But also what's very interesting is how much the top 3 have closed down. It was about 3 seconds between the first and the second. Now it's less than 2, and they're closing down at a rate of knots essentially. but also Yayovsky is kind of keeping the gap. Sometimes closing down, sometimes slightly losing. It's possibly due to traffic in places as well. Like right now, traffic through Magus and Beckett, and he still goes right through the middle of it. That's quite impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, we've seen his driving abilities throughout this series, of course. Keeping Speedy Mike Racing up there and near the top, it has to be said, with his brilliant results. 4th position at Monza, 1st position at the Nürburgring, and 3rd position at Brands Hatch. And really, his main challenges have been these two Finn Team Audis, which are the only Audis in the field, surprisingly. And we've seen that throughout these rounds that the Finn Team Audis have been very strong, but Chajovsky is able to keep up with them, and without mistakes, has been there or thereabouts in all rounds. And it looks like this is going to be same again.
Yes, indeed. At this point, wow, we have, yes, Tattel is now just a second behind, but yes, it seems like the Finn team having a great race so far.
And it looks like Jeffrey Tassamore has now rejoined the race in 12th position, so losing around about 20-30 seconds, maybe even more than that, 35 seconds in the pit stop phase. So that's something that Lind is going to want to be keeping an eye on, because of course the further you go into the race, the less fuel you're going to need to put into the car, so the pit stop will be therefore shorter. So hopefully maybe Lind is going to think that, and of course we're approaching half race distance already here, and Lind is currently in 4th position, though possibly a later stop is now going to be an option for Dennis Lind.
To be honest, that's not entirely the case with how much fuel you put in, at least. I'm not entirely sure how pit stops work in the sims, I'll be perfectly honest, but they should work similarly to most other sims. And in that case, because you always only need a certain amount of fuel in a race, so as long as you can finish, you will be able to put in just the amount you need to finish the race. So it doesn't matter, it's just that you will be having to run for longer with more fuel if you're pitting a bit earlier. But we do have a battle for 10th place between for 9th place in fact, between Ali Ferry and Samuel Fuller.
Again, you wouldn't expect the Z4 to suit this circuit at all, but we've seen that Samuel Fuller has been able to adapt the Z4 in previous rounds. He got a very commendable results in the last few rounds. 9th position at Monza, 8th position at Nürburgring, and then 6th position as season best at Brands Hatch, where you'd expect the Z4 to be strong, and even at a circuit like this, he's able to stay within the top 10 and on the back of a Lamborghini Huracan, which you'd expect to be strong.
Yes, and I think it's down to how well these cars are now balanced ever since they have been ever since they were updated. Before a couple of weeks before this race. I think they have done a great job in balancing them out, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that could definitely be a factor as well. And now we see the battle for 4th position is closing up as Dennis Lind and Kev Rakedis are now just under 2 seconds apart. Kev Rakedis setting the best lap on that lap time by 0.4 of a second. Lind having to deal with traffic, but of course Kev Rakedis will have to deal with that as well. He goes up the inside into the loop, and he's able to get past the Team Oldman Nissan there, but traffic, of course, not going to play as much as a part as it did maybe at Brands Hatch, where we had a lap time under 1 minute 30, of course a lap time over 2 minutes here, but still going to play a factor in this race, and something that drivers will have to consider.
Yes, and also at this point, Cassino is actually, I think, doing better laps than Lind, so he's on a good roll, but he's also about to encounter Lorenzo Bonder if he's going to be going at this rate. But also, the front two drivers in the Finn team are only 0.4 apart. This is going to be a battle for the lead once again.
Yeah, now we've got two Finn team drivers at the front. Sacco Lepiniemi at the front at the moment, but Totella on the back of him as they go down the Hangar Straight, just 0.4 now. The gap comes down in the slipstream, but we've seen that the car of Totella will top out at around 270, and yes, it does again there, but he's closed that gap down, and it doesn't look like Jajovsky's been able to close the gap down so to the leader, so possibly Jajovsky not able to have the pace now that the two Finn team drivers are at the front.
Yes, it seems like he has been starting to just not be able to get that pace in that car later on in the stint. Possibly, again, the tires possibly just not quite able to keep up at this point. But to be honest, he's actually doing lap times which are slightly better than the leaders currently, so he could be catching up before the pit, before the pits should start for the top drivers. Although that should only happen in about 3 laps or so.
Yeah, we should start seeing the leaders being soon, and that may be something that Jajovski is considering, perhaps. We leave these tyres to try and run round at a consistent pace that he feels comfortable at, and then attack on the new tyres where he's got the fresh rubber, he's got fuel in the car, and he knows how long he's got to take the tyres. And if you can take these tyres a little bit longer, of course, he's not got to take the next set as far, so the second stint may be shorter, so that may be another thing that he is considering. So a lot of variables here as they approach the pit stop window.
Yes, and it all depends on the driver, and it depends on what they prefer. If they prefer to have a shorter first or a second stint. I personally would say that I prefer a slightly longer second stint, but that would be my preference.
Yeah, I would prefer a shorter second stint.
I think it very much just depends on how you like driving. And I think by the end, drivers are usually quite a bit more cautious, so you can you don't have to worry about your tires being as you stop, as long as you're still keeping pushing. So it very much just depends on how drivers are doing. As we have an attack for first place between Leppo and do we have Tatella in first place? Yes.
Yes, it looked like they're very orderly between the teammates there as they went through Stowe. Tatella now in the lead and back where he perhaps expected to be at the start of this race and where he is used to being in the championship. Now Lepiniemi in second position, now back in that second spot, but Jajovski still not able to make much inroads into the top two. 2.7 seconds is the gap between the top 3 drivers, and didn't set a faster lap than the top 2. He did though than Lepiniemi, so Tatella a faster lap than Jajovski there on that lap, and now maybe the point where Tatella says, right, we're going to put the hammer down and possibly attack for the rest of the stint.
We'll see. At this point, of course, they were battling, so they were bound to lose a bit more time to Jajovski. But Jajovski was quicker than both of them last lap. In fact, I was looking at it, and he done a 2:02 while both of them did a 2:03. So we'll see how they do now in clear air for Tatella. And I think he's going to now start running away, to be honest. But you also are never sure on how the tires are holding up in either one of those cars.
Yes, and the pit stop phase is something we're now getting into properly. We saw Jeffrey Tassimore make a very early pit stop in order to get onto some fresh rubber, and they now have Samuel Fuller who is coming into the pit lane now to make a pit stop, and that promotes a number of drivers back up into the top 10. So Fuller, we saw him behind Ali Ferry. Perhaps that is something that he's thinking. Maybe he can leapfrog Ferry in the pit lane. And Lorenzo Bonda, we saw him drop down the order at the start of the race down into 15th position at one point, and now he's back up into 10th position, so possibly something he may be able to improve on, because he's closing up on Ali Ferry at a rate of knots that perhaps we'll see him behind the Lamborghini driver in a number of laps.
Yeah, I think he's getting finally comfortable with that Ferrari, and he will definitely be challenging Ali Ferry in just a couple seconds. We'll also see if he maybe pits in and attempts to jump her in the pits, because it is getting to that pit window, alright?
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen Samuel Fuller now rejoin in 16th position, so Jeffrey Tassimore now in 11th position. Of course, he also made a earlier pit stop, and he's closing up on that battle between Lorenzo Bonda and Ali Ferry. So it seems around about 30 seconds is the usual pit stop time for these drivers. The amount of time that they will lose in the mandatory pit stop. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. And at the moment, it looks like Dennis Lind is enough ahead of Jeffrey Tassimore in order to leapfrog the fellow Nissan driver, as he is nearly 40 seconds ahead of Jeffrey Tassimore.
Yes, it's quite a bit of time, but also, something interesting, because now Jajovski is still lapping quicker than both of the drivers in front, so he is catching up to Leppo pretty high rate. It's under a second already.
Yeah,
So,
it looks like he's definitely closing in. The gap's gone down from 3 seconds. It was a couple of laps ago. Now it's down to 2.4, and the gap between me and Jajovski is now just 7/10 of a second. So Jajovski definitely moving up in the order a little bit here, perhaps looking to challenge before the pit stop window. He said he may be trying to stretch the tyres out a little bit further, but obviously now that Lepiniemi is there, he's probably thinking maybe we can attack now, because he's right behind Lepiniemi now as they head through Magnussen Beckett.
Lepo made a massive mistake through the old first corner, hops, is it? And just a massive mistake, so much slower than Jajovski. And at this rate, I think Jajovski has an upper hand in many ways. It's only half a second between the two.
Yes, and we've now got Lorenzo Bonda up into 9th position as Ali Ferry made a mistake there, so a contact between the two though. Tassenmoir tried making a move on the outside, and it looks like Ali Ferry understeered into the side of Tassenmoir. Ali Ferry able to rejoin safely, but an incident there at Lovefield, so Lorenzo Bonda now up into 9th, Tassenmoir into 10th, and Ali Ferry into 11th, and we've now got the leaders pitting.
Yes, the second and third place drivers in pits, as our leader himself stays out for at least another lap.
So it looks like Lepo and Jajovski are making the split strategy, the same number of laps for both times, so 21 laps, and actually 23 laps of course. My maths is terrible today, and we now have Tobias Rona in the pit lane as well, so the first of the Nissans in that little group to pit as well.
It's very interesting to see that all of the Nissan drivers except for Casanova decided that they will take it quite a bit further. It could be that their tires are actually not being affected too hard by even a Nissan, which is a brake essentially going through the air. You would think that would use up the tires quite a bit more.
Yes, and possibly the different tyre compounds come into effect here, because we do have the soft tyre and the medium tyre available for the drivers. So in Brands Hatch we saw that the two tyres weren't too different, but maybe here it makes a difference, and you can take the medium tyres a lot longer than the soft tyre, and perhaps Tassenmoir went on the soft tyre to begin with, and then he's now on the medium tyre for the end of the race, and that is why he's making such a long stint out of the second set of tyres.
Yes, possibly. Also, I'm seeing that the battle still for second place is very close, so that's also very interesting. Currently with Lind in second place, 26.7 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, and those two are now battling even more than they were a couple of laps ago. Kevrikedis has now closed back up on Lind, so maybe these two will be battling towards the end of their stint. We've got a number of other drivers in the pit lane now. We've got Ali Ferry, Lorenzo Bonda and Niemanen in the pit lane, so all three drivers of Bonda now exit the pits, as does Ali Ferry, and it looks like a lot of them are coming out in traffic. In fact, Ali Ferry is under pressure from Edward Rocket there as they head into the loop. And we've now got another driver up the inside there, and we've got contact there between a number of drivers there. That was Alex Clapano going up the inside of Edward Rocket there as they headed through the loop. So a big battle going on for these drivers that some of them are pitted, some of them haven't. So something that drivers are going to have to be cautious of is that traffic that may be behind them on the road or even in front of them on the road, they're going to have to be careful with as they exit the pit lane.
As I'm also looking slightly further back, and Jajovski did jump Lepo through the pit lane or right after, because they are very close, one behind another. And Jajovski right in front of Lepo. This is going to be very interesting to see if the Finn team driver can overtake Jajovski for that effectively second place currently, as Jajovski makes a mistake.
Yeah, and Jajovski making a mistake. It looks like Lepo may be able to get through on the outside, not able to do the undercut there, the over and under move in order to get up the inside into Aintree. But Tartar is now pitted, and he has got a 5-second gap over these drivers as he heads past some lap traffic. And we said that the Nissans may be going longer, and it indeed seems that they are, because Dennis Lynn and Kevriket is just 7 tenths between them at the current state, and those drivers looking to make it past the halfway distance and possibly maybe 2/3 distance before they make their pit stop.
I already said that 2/3 of a distance is quite a bit too long to go on these tires. That would be very very detrimental to your pace.
That possibly might be the case, but at least to lap 25 we may see them not pitting, because we saw that 16 laps was how far Tassenwalk went before he pitted, so possibly that strategy may be able to work out for a number of drivers doing the reverse of that, with going the shortest stint and near the end of the race. So a lot of strategies come into play here, and we've got a lot of drivers in the pit lane as well, so field being mixed up here, of course.
Yes, so at the moment, the standings you are looking at are not the actual standings. Drivers are still holding out with their pit stops, as we have our current leader in pits. Dennis Lind is into his pit lane, pit box, to see where he can come out. Can he come out in front of Tesla is the biggest question.
Yeah, that may be a factor. Tassenwalk currently 36 seconds behind Lind as they ended that pit stop phase. Tassenwalk coming towards Stowe Corner at the moment, so he's got about 15 to 20 seconds remaining in the lap time. Lind still remains in his pit box as Fevgatos goes through. He's yet to make his pit stop, of course, so Fevgatos moving up into 5th position now as the other drivers make their pit stops. And Lind is now exiting the pit lane as Tassenwalk comes onto the start and finish straight, so it's going to be very close between the two as Lind exits the pits.
That's going to be Lind in front of Tassenwalk by the skin of his teeth, basically. They're going to be right one behind another, to be honest, at this rate, since Lind is still accelerating. That looks like about 2 seconds between those two drivers.
So it does look like Lind has been able to successfully overtake Tassenwalk in that alternate strategy that he performed. So Tassenwalk not able to make that strategy pay off and remain in that provisional 4th position at the moment. But Kevrakedis, he's going the longest of the Nissans. He's in 1st position at the moment, 4 seconds ahead of Totella. We then have 5 seconds further back to Jajovski and to Lepaniemi, and those drivers are actually just getting through some lap traffic, so possibly those battles have been interrupted slightly by the lap traffic, but of course the lap traffic doing their best to obey the blue flags. So looks like the two drivers there in 3rd and 4th at the minute, 2nd and 3rd after the pit stops it will be, are both making their way through the lap traffic very well.
Yes, and I think at the moment our leader, or our effective leader, is catching up on Edward Rocket, back in 20th place, I think.
Yeah, so it looks like a number of drivers are being overtaken at the moment further down the field. So Tartella looking to get past Edward Rocket. It looks like Rocket will move over to the side as they go down the start-finish straight. Maybe not yet, but maybe into the village as Tartella moves to the inside. So lap traffic, something that we said we're going to have to obey, and looks like Tartella struggling to get past Rocket. He gives way though in the end, flashing lights doing the trick for Totella.
Honestly, didn't like that very much, to be honest, because Rocket did impede on Totella, but quite a bit through the first corner, and I didn't like to see that, to be perfectly honest, as we have a driver seemingly retiring from the race. That is Groff.
Yes, I believe he was already down the order 22nd position, but now it looks like he's going to fall further back as Simon Marshall, Nick Wheeler and Vasconcelos, Jose Vasconcelos for Team Oldman, are all going to overtake him. So our second retirement of the evening, it seems.
Actually, it looks like our third retirement, because Francisco Lemme, which we have talked about quite a bit as being a bit slower but under pressure a lot of the time and running pretty well, has also retired.
So it looks like a number of drivers having problems here in this race, and now Karolchak has got something, because behind him is Cyril Sauce, who's currently in 10th position at the moment, but looking to challenge the Lamborghini Huracan as they go down the straight into Brooklands. Looks like a little bit of a gap has opened up between the two, but still Karolchak going to have to be looking in his mirrors to check where the McLaren is currently.
Yes, at the moment he'll be having to watch out for Sauce. And I think, having a very mixed bag of the race, to be honest. A driver which had a couple of nice moves, but also isn't seemingly as on pace as he would probably like. Although he is in points and he is in 10th place, so he'd definitely take that in a heartbeat after he was starting quite far back in the grid.
Yeah, it looks like he has made up quite a few positions from his starting position, and we've now got a battle for the lead. Of course, Totella already made his pit stop, so he's now a pit stop ahead of Kevrakedis, but still, these two are battling because they are in. This is 4 positions, so Totella can back, but also Kevrakedis can defend from the Audi if he so wishes to. It may impede his progress though in making positions further up the field. It looks like Totella's going to move to the inside, but blue flags now don't apply, so this is for position.
Yes, of course. If you're fighting a driver for position, even though he's on a different strategy, he has the full right to defend from you. This is an actual battle for position, and this could play into the hands of Yayovsky quite a bit, who actually has to deal with traffic from behind. But those drivers will have yellow flags, or blue flags. Sorry, not yellow flags. But
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true, and it looks like a number of drivers are moving out of the way as they go down the start-finish straight, down the old start-finish straight. Sorry. So it looks like that battle has actually closed up because Totella is now only 3.5–4 seconds ahead of Jovsky, whereas when they exited the pit lane it was around 5 to 6 seconds. So the battle that Totella is in is now impeding his progress.
Yes, it is impeding his progress, and you can see that very clearly. But that Nissan is very good on the straight, and he is slower through corners, so that's the way he's going to be impeded for the most part. But now he has attacked into Stowe, and he has gone through.
So Totella resuming his position at the front of the field, of course, after that pit stop. And Kevrakedis, has he now decided to pit? No, he's not decided to pit. He looked like he was diving to the outside. He's going around the outside of Totella, and he's looking to the inside as they head through the final number of corners, but not able to make the move there. And now the battle is on the 3rd position as well, and Jovsky has managed to claw that back gap down to 2.5 seconds between himself and Totella. So that little battle that was only on for about a lap and a half between Kevrakedis and Totella has really cost Totella there, and now Jovsky is taking full effect of that. Really has made an advantage of that.
Yes, and of course that was a proper battle for position, so Totella can't be too angry about that. But he would be angry that he couldn't do it, have it done any quicker. But he can't be angry at now currently 2nd place man Kevrakedis for blocking him, really, because it was just basically a battle.
Yeah, that's very true as well. So possibly it may impede Jovsky as they go forward. Not that there's anything wrong with what Kevrakedis is doing, but still it's something to consider as they head forward through these laps. We're now on lap number 27 of 44, so approaching 2/3 distance, of course. But now Jovsky under pressure from Lepaniemi as they tried to overtake one of the Sky Sport Speed racing car. But it looks like Jovsky is still able to stay ahead as they head through Magus and Beckett's.
Yes, and again, it's very difficult to overtake through Magus and Beckett's. It's basically near impossible, but it is very important to get that corner right to get a good exit onto the hangar straight. But at this point, I'm not entirely sure where he's going to try and attack him, if he's going to catch up to Yayovsky, who is now starting to lose time again to Totella.
Yes, that's very true, and now the gap has gone back up to 3.3, so nearly a second alone in this lap. So it looks like that pace that Totella had in the first stint is being replicated here in the second stint as he continues to open up the lead that he had over Jovsky in the first stint. Of course, Jovsky making the perfect pit stop and getting past Lepaniemi in the pit stop in the pit lane itself, but now it looks like the two are going to be closed back up to each other because Kevrakedis is under pressure now though from Jovsky. Jovsky looking around the outside of Kevrakedis. Can he hold it around the outside to get the inside for the loop? And yes, he has. That's a brilliant move. And can Lepaniemi follow through as well? Looks like Lepaniemi may be able to follow through as well. He's got the inside line for Aintree. The Nissan though shuts the door. Nissan on the grass a little bit as they exit Aintree corner and now down towards Brooklands. Lepaniemi though has the inside line and the fresher tyres as well. So Lepaniemi up to 3rd position, but Jovski, a brilliant move around the outside, and Lepiniemi making full effect and capitalising on that.
Yes, going through that was very key to getting through, basically not losing enough time to Jovski to lose the possibility of a challenge for second place. So that was very well done. And at
Yes,
that point,
now.
oh, go.
And now the two can now battle really without the issue of Kevrakedis in front of them. Not that Kevrakedis was doing anything wrong, as we repeat, he's on a very different strategy to the drivers in front. Of course, one of the drivers has got longest in this race, so as long with Fevgartos, so the two Stay Puft Nissans are going very long in this race. Do you think possibly this strategy may work out in their favour, impeding the cars, not impeding, but slowing up slightly the cars in the positions at the front, possibly may help them in the later stage of the race?
I would honestly not think so. I think they're just losing time at this point. That's my personal view. But they will be a lot quicker in the second stint, and they can put on something like the soft tires and gain maybe half a second a lap, and that could play into their hands by the end of the race. So it is possible that it is a very viable strategy. It's just that I don't see it as one I would never see myself doing.
Yes, and we can see that very clearly, them losing time at the moment. A second and a half a lap that time round to the drives in front of Kevrakedis. So this strategy may be working out in the second once they switch on to tyres, but time that they're gaining then maybe time that they've lost now, and maybe time that they're going to have to rely on getting back in that second stint.
Yes, and that is, I'm not sure if he can. I'm going to have to watch his lap times, but if that lap time is way too slow at this point, I don't think it's going to be worth it, to be perfectly honest.
No, and it looks like that is going to be something that maybe hasn't paid off as well as he would have hoped, possibly his pace not quite being there, but we'll have to see, because previously he was battling around the top 8 positions, so if he comes out in that, we'll know that he's made a success of it, and hopefully able to battle for 7th to 6th position there. So 2 drivers yet to make a pit stop within the top 10 positions, but your current order at the moment is Patella, Jajovski, and Lepiniemi, who have all made pit stops in this current moment. 4th position, Kevrakedis and his Stay Puft teammate Fevgartos are both yet to pit, so the mandatory pit stop they have not yet made, so they are hoping that that will pay off for them. 6th position is Dennis Lind, the Super Trofeo 2016 champion, of course, and in 7th position is the Talking Door Racing #1 of Jeffrey Tasselmore. In 8th position is Tobias Rona in the Talking Door Racing Nissan number 71. 9th position is Karol Chak. 10th position is Fuller. 11th is Ali Ferry. 12th position is Lorenzo Bonda. 13th is Cyril Sauce. 14th is Marco Watcher. And 15th is Papanglu in the Lamborghini Huracan. He's rounding out the points scoring positions at the moment. So one driver who I do not see in this order is Craig Patterson. Do you have any idea where he has gone? Because I do not see him in our timing screen.
I haven't seen him from the very beginning of the race, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure what happened to Craig, but it very much just looks like he may have not had the best of races. I was quickly checking, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I can't see him.
No, but maybe another retirement for this race, and maybe not even starting at all. And we've now got Fevgartos finally decided to make the pit stop as first of the Stay Puft cars to pit, and he is going to resume in what looks like 8th position, because Karol Chak is still around 15 seconds though until he reaches that point. So Gartos now exiting the pit lane into clean air, so this is now the point where he has got to push, and the 14-15 seconds in front of him is what his aim is to close down.
Yes, closing that kind of gap down will be interesting, and I can't really check the tires unluckily at this very point, but I could only assume that at this point you would put on soft tires.
Yeah, you'd think that he'd be running full qualifying pace for this last stint. You'd have to in order to, in that amount of time, in 15 laps, so he's looking at about a second a lap that he's going to want to be gaining. So he's got low fuel and also fresh tyres, so that's going to be something he's going to be hoping will pay off in the long run. And Kevrakedis looks like he's also going to be making his pit stop soon, you'd assume, if both Stay Puft drivers are on the same strategy. And indeed he does here on lap number 29, so coming into the pit lane, and Kevrakedis maybe on the back of that group that we seen Fafgartos trying to catch. So hopefully for Kevrakedis' sake, he may be able to latch on to the back of Rona, Tassenoir and Lind.
That is a reasonable assumption. There are so many Nissans, and he would also not get too impeded if he can get out in top 8 in terms of top speed, but it will also be a bit more difficult to overtake, I'd say, if he was to try. So that's the kind of problem you have if you're a Nissan driver and you have another Nissan in front of you. You're both very, very quick in a straight line, and you have the same advantages and disadvantages, so it's kind of like driving a spec series.
Yeah, and Kevrakedis now exiting the pit lane, so Tobias Rona can be through turn 1, and this is going to be very close. Tobias Rona exiting the first and second corners now, but it looks like Kevrakedis is into that 6th position, and he's got 5 seconds in front of him, 5 seconds of empty tarmac in front of him in order to catch the other 2 Nissans of Jeffrey Tassenoir, and then a further 5 seconds to catch Dennis Lind. So that is going to be his aim in order to get into the top 5.
Yes, and it will be very, very interesting, because if he's on a fresh rubber, and of course the other drivers have rubbers that are about 10 laps old at this point, it could be very much that he can catch up to them on a better tire. And luckily he is just out of range. I can see up to Runner on what tires they're on, but I cannot see the 6th place enough. So, unluckily, I don't know what tire he's on, but I would assume he's on a soft tire, since even the driver behind him, Tobias Roner, is on a soft tire. So we'll have to just see and wait out and see. But I think if he can possibly use that soft tire to his advantage and overtake Tassenoir and Lind, that would be a very, very good result from Kevrakedis.
Yeah, but now the only problem with that strategy, of course, as good as it may seem with the lower fuel level and fresher tyres, is that he's got to sustain that pace for the next 12-13 laps of the remainder of this race. So if that is something that he can achieve and that he's achieved in practice, we will be seeing him making leaps and bounds into that gap, which he already is doing. In fact, he's only 2.5 seconds now behind Jeffrey Tassenoir. So perhaps 5th position is going to be very possible for Kevrakedis.
I think at the rate he may be going, he may be, if there's something goes in his favor, he may be attempting to challenge for 4th place even. So we'll see how his pace is. Currently, this lap was his first out lap, and it doesn't seem too bad, to be honest, for an out lap.
No, not at all. And another driver that is very quick in this pace is Tobias Rona. He set a 2 minutes 3 second lap time, whereas Jeffrey Tassenoir was setting a 2 minutes 5. So either a mistake on that lap, or genuine lap traffic perhaps for Jeffrey Tassenoir, or the soft tyres that Rona and Kevrakedis are running on as a big advantage for them in this later portion of the race.
You must remember that Tassenoir has been driving on these tires for already half of the full race distance, essentially. So that could also be Tassenoir's tires protesting him.
Yeah, definitely that could be a possibility, of course. You'd expect the mediums to have a longer longevity to them opposed to the soft tyre, but perhaps not able to go as far as hopefully as Tassenoir projected earlier in the race. But Jadowski now going back to the front of the field. Totella is currently 3.8 seconds ahead of Jadowski, so although he was able to make up a number of seconds after the pit stop phase, it seems that things have stabilised at the moment, and it seems that Totella is now controlling that lead. We've seen Jadowski setting consistent 2 minutes 1s, high 2 minutes 1s, low 2 minutes 2s as he does do on that lap, but also Lepniemi setting those times as well. So it could be that for the final podium position, or even for the top podium position, we could have a battle towards the end of this race.
It could be very exciting by the end of this race indeed. And I think having an exciting end to the race is always something that you keep in your memory for a lot longer than the exciting beginning of the race. So that should be very interesting.
Yes, and he's talking of the exciting end to the race. It may be for Kevrakedis, as he's now right behind Jeffrey Tassenoy. We can see through these final corners that Tassenoy is really struggling for grip, and Kevrakedis, with those newer tyres, the softer tyres, looking to the inside and hopefully able to make a move for his sake into these first couple of corners. He's going to stay behind for the moment, but looking through on the inside into Village. Oh, they make contact. Oh, and there's big contact between himself and the number 33 of Dennis Confuel there through. So it looked like Kevrakedis made contact into the braking zone with Jeffrey Tassenoy, and then Jeffrey Tassenoy was launched into the other Nissan. It looks like the two have resumed where they are, and now, wow, I can't believe what I've just witnessed.
I think that was a bit of too much of over-eagerness, to be honest, from Kevrakedis, keeping way too close to Tassenoy. I've seen that happening way before it happened. It was just so obvious, and luckily that caused both of them to lose a lot of place, since Kevrakedis did actually wait for Tassenoy to come back, but now Tassenoy is with so much damage after that flight straight into another car that he just had to let through. He just had to let Kevrakedis through. But now a driver that actually got really the upper hand from all of that is Tobias Roner, who's now up into 5th place. I think he'd be quite happy with that spot of luck, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. In the first round, he scored 5th position. That's his only race for the team so far in this championship. Matthias Mercado and Lorenzo Bonda, of course, subbing in for him in the other 2 rounds. But back here in where he really should be, in the top 5 at the moment. So taking advantage of the mistakes from the other 2, and now into 5th position.
Yes, exactly, 5th position. But he will be under pressure from Kevrakedis very soon, I think, by the looks of it, to be honest. So it's only 1.5 seconds, and at this point, I would expect Kevrakedis to be quite a bit quicker than Roner.
Yes, you would expect that, especially on the softer compound of the tyres. It's now, as you say, only 1.5 seconds behind and closing very fast, but an error of judgment on the previous lap coming into the loop there for Kevrakedis, and hopefully for his sake he won't be penalised for that, but the stewards will be definitely looking into that incident. Their driving standards are perhaps a little bit lower than we would have thought. Perhaps Kevrakedis not expecting that braking that early from Jeffrey Tassenoy, but now Tobias Roner is under pressure from Kevrakedis, as you say, so off at 5th position could go right down to the wire with just over 10 laps to go.
I think honestly this will end quite a bit before we go down to the wire, since we are 10 laps to go, and that is around 200 or about 20 minutes. So we still have quite a bit of this race to go, and we could see this battle be over way before we even get to the flag, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a distinct possibility there, because, as you say, with 10 laps to go now in this race, as Totella sets a 2 minutes 1.7 there, showing his pace there at the front. Jajowski in the 2 minutes 2s in that lap. So, as you say, 10 laps to go, and Kevrakedis is already on the back of Tobias Roner going to the outside there, and we've got a battle in front of them as well between lap cars. That looks like one of the Sky Sports Speed racing cars and also one of the STR racing cars. So we've got a battle for a position within the top 5 and also for a battle lower down the field, as Kevrakedis makes a slight mistake there as they go into the final section of corners, and it looks like those 2 drivers getting out of the way of the 2 drivers at the head of the field, but Tobias Roner is now under pressure from Kevrakedis.
Yes, and he was, if not for that lap traffic, I think Roner would already have lost that place, but the lap traffic played in his hand. But now he has to watch out for Kevrakedis again.
Yeah, that's possibly very true, because Kevrakedis immediately got back on the tail of Tobias Roner. They're both on the same tyre compound, but as we've discussed earlier, the shorter stint for Kevriket is maybe playing into his hands at this point. So Kevriket is looking to make a move at some point in the following lap, so of course before the end of this race, but looking very close behind Tobias Rona at the moment.
Yes, Tobias Rona under a lot of pressure, and he is attempting his best, but it seems like it's just Kevriket is just not having a bit of a better line for corners, just a bit smoother, just a bit quicker everywhere. But Rona is still keeping in front, and he will be attempting to keep his way of 5th place, and it will be a difficult task, but he can manage it.
Yeah, it looks like possibly maybe defending maybe a bit easier than attacking at this point. Of course, we said that it's a difficult place to pass despite the number of long straights leading into slower corners, but it looks like Kevrikedis is now right behind Tobias Rona as they exit Beckett's and go through Chapel onto the Hanger Straight. And this time it looks like Kevrikedis is going to move to the inside very early, even before they get to the bridge. As they go towards Stowe Corner, looks like Kevrikedis is going to be on the inside for the right-hander at Stowe. They break down a number of gears down into Stowe Corner, and Kevrikedis is back up into 5th position. So Kevrikedis making that strategy work. Had a bit of an incident after his pit stop, but now he's back up into 5th position.
Yes, and it was actually mighty impressive coming through the Maggots and Beckett's complex. He was going completely sideways, essentially, coming onto the Hanger Straight. But he managed to control it so perfectly that he actually slingshotted and got an actual speed advantage over Rona, who now felt it, and he's behind now.
Yes, and it looks like Kevriket that's going to be as far as he can get, because Lind, who is in 4th position, hardly spoken about him to be honest, but he's currently in 4th position and doing a great job as the head Nissan in this race at the moment, making his way through lap traffic. So 15 seconds possibly too far for Kevriket to gain, but we said about Stelios Fevgatos possibly being able to make up the ground to drives in front, and he's currently half the gap to Tobias Rona, who who was in front of him as he exited the pit lane. So possibly that soft tyre strategy may be working out for Fevgatos here, as he's now only 2 seconds behind Jeffrey Tassmore, who we assume has got a lot of damage from that incident earlier on.
Yes, he definitely does seem to have a lot of damage, or at least he has been losing time pretty consistently. But from what I'm seeing, Fevgatos does have quite a bit of oversteer issues, I'd nearly put it. The car seems to be quite unstable, so I'm not sure if that's tire related, or if it's just the car or if it's just the way they like to set that car up and like the feeling of it.
Yeah, that's a possibility, of course, but you'd think that for lap time that the traction would be important on these corners where you go leaning onto long straights. He's currently flashing his lights at the drivers in front in order to try and get through. Of course, they'll be trying to obey blue flags, but not always easy when you've got a number of other things to concentrate on as he closes in on the STR Racing Hurricane. But at the moment, he's just 3 seconds behind. In fact, he's closing up even more than that as Jeffrey Tassanoy also gets into lap traffic. So looks like within these last 5, 6, 7 laps, it looks like we'll be closing up for an interesting battle for 7th position.
It could very much be interesting battle for that place, and at the moment, yes, I think they can catch up to each other. They do have each other in sight, and that always is an incentive and a half. But we'll just see soon enough.
Yeah, but the other thing to consider, of course, is that while that incentive can be a benefit, it could also be something that Fevgatos judges his pace on. He judges his pace on Tassanoy, maybe can't make any inroads past a second and a half. I know from my personal experience, it's very difficult making up that last second and a half on a driver, even if you have made a number of seconds up in the previous number of laps. So while Fevgatos is near to Tassanoy, while getting up to him is one thing, passing him is a completely different thing. So he's going to have a challenge on his hands as we approach the end of this race in order to get up to that 7th position.
Yes, and again, now it's just 2.5 seconds, and though he is seemingly a lot quicker with that damage. And honestly, I'm seeing some comments, and it's kind of crazy. Crazy. Yes, in real life, you would see that car of Tassenai from that flight and hitting that other GT car, basically retiring. So it's impressive that he's still driving, and if he can finish 7th or 8th, it will be a very, very good end to this drive.
Yes, of course, we do have limited damage in this series, just for events like that. If drivers do make slight mistakes and they cause large consequences for other drivers, it is very demoralising for a driver who's practiced all week long in order to improve their pace and get up on pace with the leaders, and then unfortunately have a small incident, a racing incident, that causes drivers to not able to finish a race. But at the moment, the battle that I'm looking at is second position, because Sako Lepiniemi has closed back up on Jajovski. The gap has been around 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, but in the last couple of laps, Sako Lepiniemi closed that gap down to around 1 second over Jajovski as they come through Maggots and Beckett's. So that battle could close up right down to the wire here.
Yes, but now I'm looking at it, and Lepo just made a mistake again, going a bit wide onto the grass. And from what I'm seeing, actually, yes, he has a bit of a problem with Sosei in front of him, a lapped car, and it's going to have to make its way through him, but Sosei now getting out of the way. So, took a little while, but now Sosei in front of Lepo, who's going to attempt an overtake or a pass into the final couple corners, and he did it so quickly, and probably gained a little bit of time because Ayoski did struggle a little bit.
Yes, so both of them making very good work with that lap car. Very, very sportsmanlike driving from Cyril Sauce there in the McLaren to allow the leaders to resume their battle. But as we said, gaining time is one thing, but passing is a totally different thing. And you'd think that between the teammates, the two Finn team drivers would have similar issues to each other, maybe using similar setups, and possibly Sako Lepiniemi may have a similar issue to Tartella, in that he may not be able to overtake on the straights because he may top out on his 6th gear.
Yes, and it could be one of those issues, although you never know, because the drivers do often like to run similar setups to each other, but they of course like to make their own modifications, because no two drivers are the same. And to be honest, Audi I think is the one that would be least affected by that. As far as I know, the Audis have some, for example, I think the rear wing on it only has like 1 or 2 settings, which is very, very few compared to some of the other cars, so it's a bit funny to set it up. But yes, I think they are running similar setups, but I would say that they modify it slightly themselves.
Yes, of course, driver preference will play a part in that, of course. Sako Lepiniemi may be preferring the straight line speed of the Audi in order to make the moves. Of course, the straight line speed is one of the easiest places to overtake, of course, because it doesn't require much driver skill. It just requires a fast car, and that in the setup could be a very, very easy thing to set up. But Jovski making a mistake through Stowe, and that gap is now down to under 1 second for the first time in a long time.
This could be very, very fascinating, and the battle is on.
And they've now got under 5 laps to go as Tartella crosses the line. Remember, Tartella is actually only 5 seconds ahead of these two, so despite the clear air that Tartella has had in relative terms to Jajovski and Lepiniemi, he's still not been able to extend that lead over the 5-second mark.
Yes, and I think at this point, also traffic's not playing into Jajovski's hands, because he does have Ali Ferry to deal with currently in her Lamborghini. But at this point, I think it's pretty obvious that we have a driver who, unless he makes a mistake, will take this win. Capella is 5 seconds in front, and you haven't really heard us say much about him for the last probably half a race, since he has just been running away with it. But he is doing a fantastic job in front currently, 5 seconds in front of this battle for 2nd place.
Yes, and now of course we look towards the championship. Coming into this round, it was approximately 50 points between the first team of Finn team, which of course is Totella and Lepiniemi for this round. And then the second team of Speedy Night Racing, which is Jajovski and Lorenzo Bonda, who's currently sitting in 14th position. So despite being in a 12th position earlier in the race, it looks like a few more mistakes has cost Lorenzo a few positions. He's now down in 14th. We said at the start of this broadcast that it may be that the Finn team can take the championship at this round, and with first and third, it looks like their chances are very, very high. And Lepiniemi, for that reason, maybe really, really wanting to get past Jajovski.
Yes, he will definitely attempt to do so, and he will want to. They will want to get that championships all done and dusted with by the end of this race, and of course that will definitely help them. I'm not entirely sure on the points in terms of how much they need to score compared to the second team, the Speedy Mike Racing team, but I think honestly they're doing a great job and are on their course of winning that championship very, very handily.
Yes, and of course we've only had 4 rounds in this championship, 2/3 of the way through this series at the end of this round, and we've got the Red Bull Ring and Spa-Francorchamps to go after this round. But these two drivers, in fact the other 2 drivers as well, Tommy Manning and also Rami Matila, have also been very, very highly paced in the Audi, and the only team in fact that have chosen the Audi in this series, and judging by the pace, that's quite a surprise. Do you put that down to anything? Is it hard to set up, or would you just put that down to driver preference, choosing the Nissan, very popular car, and also the Lamborghini, a very popular car?
Honestly, I find it very interesting considering the cars were chosen back in a slightly different version of the tire model, and they were slightly differently set up, but they were evened out by the BOP, and now these cars do not have any kind of weight ballast or anything. They're completely stock as they are in the game currently. And I honestly, I think the Audi had a bit of possibly a disadvantage with, especially how little there is that you can do in setup in some places. Again, aero is very, very fixed in the Audis. I think there are only a couple things you can change. While in some cars, like for example the Ferrari, you have, let's say, 12 or 13 different settings for the rear wing, and you can very finely tune it. So I guess it's all that plus just the preference of maybe the mid-engine car that's not a Lamborghini.
Yes, and that's really paid off for this team. You'd have to say, judging by just the results. I mean, the first round they got first and second, then third and fourth at the Nürburgring, then first and second at Brands Hatch, and it looks like first and third here as well. So on the podiums or within the top 5 at all rounds, and that consistency has just paid off for their huge championship lead. Of course, we have 25 points for a win here in this championship, and then of course we have an extra point for the fastest lap and also an extra point for pole position. So total of around 50 points for the team if you add up first and second position. So you'd think that towards the end, if they have a 100-point lead, that they'd be in, towards the end of this round, if they have a 100-point lead, they'd be in good stead for winning this championship at this point. But we'll have to wait and see once the points are added up after this round.
As we also have a battle for PLO between Ali Ferry and Sosei. This should be very interesting, and that's a McLaren versus a Lamborghini battle.
Looks like Sosei staying behind at the moment. Ali Ferry being very defensive through that right-hander there at Luffield, but onto the straight. Looks like the McLaren's going to be in the slipstream of the Lamborghini Cops, possibly not the best place to overtake on this circuit, and neither is Manning Beckett's, but you'd expect Stowe would be one of the overtaking opportunities in this half of the lap. So Sosei looking for a good front run through Maggots and Beckett's, and possibly a run down towards Stowe down the Hanger Straight.
The only problem with that is that the McLaren is very bad in a straight line speed. I'm not 100% sure on the Lamborghini, but I don't think it is the quickest on a straight line at the very least. So this will be very interesting, and Ali Ferry is under an immense amount of pressure now from Sosei. He is right on her back wing.
It's now a question of which way Sosei will go. He goes to the left slightly, and now he jumps to the right, trying to fake Ferry out, but it looks like he's going to stay behind at the moment. Ferry doing a very good job in 11th place, is the second place Lamborghini behind Karosiak, who is in 9th position. So Ali Ferry under increasing pressure from Cyril Sauce as they go through club corner there, and they are going to start their penultimate lap now. So just 2 laps for Cyril Sauce to make that move up into 11th position.
As he makes a bit of a mistake out of the final corner, you are right, that's only 2 laps to go, and he has to make it quick.
Yes, and now we've got Tatella, who is now coming through Aintree corner and onto the straight towards Brooklands. He has got a 5-second gap here on the penultimate lap of the race ahead of Speedy Mites and Jajovski. 3rd position is Tartella's teammate Sako Lepiniemi, who hasn't been able to make any further inroads on Jajovski. 2 seconds between Jajovski and Lepiniemi at the moment. And going back to that battle, it looks like they're side by side as they go towards Brooklands.
There was a bit of an undercut earlier on happening, and they are going side by side into Brooklands, and I think Ali Ferry just going a bit too wide, and so say has it in that McLaren, which is by far, at least if I recall correctly, the worst car in a straight line, but absolutely amazing through the corners. So using that car to its strengths and abilities, and he is now in front of Ali Ferry.
It also looks like the tyres may be playing an advantage for Sauce as well, because he is running on the softer compound tyre, the white wall tyre, whereas Ali Ferry running on the yellow wall soft tyre, so possibly that also playing into an effect there for the Priority 1 Motorsport car.
That actually is not the case. The sidewalls of the tyres do not depend on the compound tyre. That is just the skin that the team decided to put onto the tyre.
I apologise.
Yes.
It must have been incredibly coincidental throughout the first 3 rounds that the driver who was on the soft tyre was running the white wall then.
Must have been, yes. But basically all of the drivers have different kind of... all of the teams seemingly could have picked a different tyre skin for different manufacturers. So some drivers are driving on a Pirelli skin, some drivers are driving on Goodyear, I think... I think there are a couple, 4 or 5 manufacturers, Michelin and Dunlop.
So we're now onto the final lap for Tatella, coming through Aintree corner once again, and this has been an incredible performance for Tatella. There was a mistake earlier on that Jajovski held his hands up to and apologised to, and let Tatella back through, and from then, through the pit stop phase, after passing his teammate before that phase, he's not made a single mistake, and now he's coming through Luffield corner, and in fact there's been contact. There's been contact at Luffield. Tatella spins, and Jajovski is now right behind the leader, so we've got action in the final lap here between the top 3. Very exciting stuff here as we go through. It doesn't look like Jajovski's going to be able to make full effect of that, but I didn't see who made contact. Did you see who you made contact with?
I wasn't entirely paying attention to the name, no. It was one of the lap cars.
It looked like it was one of the BMWs, possibly Simon Marshall, who made contact with leader there, but Tatella's still in the lead now, but his gap has been cut down to 1.3 seconds here as they come through towards the final sector of the lap, and this, you have to say, is going to be Jajovski's final attempt at making a move, but with a second gap it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but excitement throughout this race here.
I don't think there's much he can do by now, but that was very, very close, and to be honest, it would be very unlucky for Tatella to lose that place as he is making his way through the final few corners. This is going to be another win for the Finn team.
Indeed it is. It's going to be his 3rd win of the season. He won in Monza, he won at Brands Hatch, of course not present at the Nürburgring, but this is going to be a 3rd win of the season in 3 attempts of trying, and Thomas Tartler takes the win here at Silverstone ahead of Erhan Jajovski in the Ferrari. Lepiniemi takes 3rd position in the second of the Audis, so a dominant performance there for Tatella, beating Jajovski in the end. Dennis Lind, of course, we know from the Super Trofeo Cup, is going to bring it home in 4th position, and it looks like he has got a clear gap ahead of Kevrakedis as he makes his way up to Stowe Corner.
I think he'll be happy enough with that place, to be honest, and it still shows he is going to be about 50 seconds behind the leaders finishing, and I think it shows how quick those leaders must be to be able to pull out a gap of this magnitude to a driver of this caliber.
Yes, that's very true, but nevertheless, coming through in fourth position is Dennis Lingen, and it just goes to show that perhaps virtual racing isn't on the same level as real racing, so not able to translate that throughout the virtual world. But Kevrakedis is going to come over in the fifth position. Sixth position is going to be Tobias Rona, who has held off Stelios Fevgatos in the last couple of laps. Sixth position then will go to Tobias Rona as he makes his way through the final corner there in the Nissan. Nissan's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, and also in it looks like in 12th position, as we also have a number of drivers finishing as Tassenwar comes through the final number of corners. He will finish in 8th position. So a brilliant race there. In fact, it was very exciting throughout. So very, very good to see from these drivers.
Yes, and Nissan seemingly very strong. Not as strong as some drivers in the front, but still very, very strong indeed, and taking over that top 10 in terms of numbers.
Yeah, it's very true, but our finishing order then for the fourth round of the Racedepartment GT Series is Thomas de Tartala in first position from Johan Jajowski and Saki Leponiemi, and we will be hearing from a number of drivers in just a few seconds. So we'll be looking to ask them a couple of questions about how their race went, and in particular what they felt went right in their race and what they felt they could improve on.
I think that will be very much the case, and it will be very interesting to see what they thought of the race as well. It was a very long one, but it was also very interesting in many ways, and quite a lot of battling, to be honest.
Yeah, there were lots of ups and lots of downs for a lot of drivers. We saw a number of incidents that we have to say that drivers held their hands up to. We saw Jajowski and Tartler come together at the start of this race, and also we saw Kevrakedis and Tobias Rona, Jeffrey Tassenwar making contact as well. So, but both drivers in both cases held their hands up and said they were at fault. So, very clean racing and very sportsmanlike for the two drivers. But we're going to have to see in the future if that is going to be enough for the drivers to make their way up into, Fin Team to get the lead in this championship and also secure it.
Yes, and I would have to do all. I guess you'd have to do all the calculations, and at the moment it would take a while to do so. But it is very much, and that is definitely one of the best results they could have hoped for up in the Finn team for their championship chances. And to be honest, their championship, their championship is nearly sealed in any case, and I think it is very unlikely for them to lose it by any means.
Yes, their current pace throughout the first 4 rounds has been exceptional. We've seen them winning a lot of races, so we'll have to see what they say in the post-race interviews. Apologies, we're having a bit of trouble getting them over to our channel in order to speak to them, but we'll be sure to speak to them soon. So hang on a few minutes and we'll have a look through the finishing results then. So it was Thomas Tartler who took the win from Jajowski and Leponiemi. Fourth position was Dennis Lind ahead of Kevrakedis and Tobias Rona. Seventh position was Stelios Fevgatos as well as Jeffrey Tassanoy, fifth of the Nissans within the top 10. Ninth position went to Karel Schack and 10th position to the BMW Z4 of Samuel Fuller. And I believe we have a number of drivers in order to talk to us. So first of all, we have second position driver Saki Lepiniemi. Saki, from your position, how did you think your race went?
Oh, not too good today.
Not too good. Why would you have that opinion?
I really should have practiced more and have more pace. Also, I don't know, it was pretty hairy with the back markers sometimes. Well, that's life, I guess.
But overall, are you happy with the position?
No, I think I could have won this race as well. It really, I just didn't have enough practice for it. And congrats to Erhan for beating me, but god damn it.
It was definitely exciting towards the end of the race, and congratulations on third position and yes, another brilliant result for Fin Team, who I believe Casper has the winner of the race. So Casper, who won the race, and what would you like to ask them?
So yes, Thomas Tatella, and honestly, it was it seemed like a great race, but you had a very iffy moment at the very end, and you seem to also in the middle of the race you have gained a lot just on the pit stops alone. So just talk us through the race, Thomas.
Erhan got past me at the start. I didn't have a good start, and then I tried to catch him and pass him, but he was too quick and defended well. Then I tried to pass on him, but he hit me, and I spun. Luckily, I could quickly get the car pointed in the right direction, and then Erhan let me and Sakke passed again, and then I catched Sakke at the end of the first stint, and then I don't know what happened at the pit stop because I gained like 5 seconds. So and then the last lap thing, I had no idea there was even a car anywhere near me, and suddenly I was spun around. I was really quickly, I could turn the car around, and yeah, that was a bit too close.
Yes, it seemed like it was very, very close indeed. And well, we just also found out from Tobias Roner's calculations that you apparently won the championship. So, I mean, Saka maybe not very happy with his result, but you did end up getting the championship.
Well, that's always good to hear. Yay!
Yeah, I think Fin Team paid Lorenzo to finish below top 10.
And yes, Peter, would you like to take over the other guests?
Yes, Erhan Chijovsky, who of course finished in second position in this race. Throughout the race, you were able to battle with the Audis. You got an amazing start. Unfortunately, I didn't see that as I disconnected, but the rest of the race was very, very, very exciting. And did you think it was a good performance by yourself?
Oh man, I'm emotionally exhausted right now. That was the most intense race I ever had. The first stint was literally 1 second behind. I mean in front of Thomas. Then I hit him on the braking, I lost it. And I had perfect pit stop, but somehow he managed to get in front of me. I don't know how, but... And at the end, when I saw him spun, I was so surprised that I made a mistake on my own, and I think yeah, that was it.
Yeah, well done at least for second position. Another very commendable result after your position at Monza, first position of course at Nürburgring, and third position at Brands Hatch. And looking forward to the final 2 rounds, are you looking to again challenge the Fin Team drivers? Even though they have wrapped up the championship, of course, it will be all to play for now.
Yeah, I do hope so. We'll see.
Well, congratulations at the very least, and congratulations to all the drivers who did very well throughout this race.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to do at the very least one more interview of a driver who just entered here to the broadcast, because he'd be an exciting one to talk to, our 4th place finisher, Dennis Lind. So yes, considering you have quite a lot of real life experience in, and especially in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, what could you say about what you thought of this race and just what you think of racing online like this?
It was so much fun. It's the first like really competitive race that I've done in Assetto Corsa. I've been a lot away for quite some time from competitive sim racing whatsoever. So it was nice to be back, and I'm pretty happy with the result. I didn't expect to be the fastest Nissan out there, but it was It was a tough race. I tested for completely different conditions, so it was my first time out on the medium tires as well. So yeah, it was good fun.
That's good to hear. And fourth place is definitely very impressive indeed for a first race in a long time.
Thank you.
So just one question, considering you are a real life driver. How would you compare racing in real life in well, not a car exactly like this, but also a GT car, a style car, compared to something like this?
Yeah, well, it's good fun. I think in in real life there's some different aspects that makes it harder, but in some way, that people are able to practice basically as much as they want. In some way, sim racing is more competitive because you have more people competing at this sort of level where they practice every day and test absolutely everything they're able to test. So I think it's very good practice to keep your head in check because you have to concentrate pretty much all the time. Not that you don't have to do that in real life, but it's a different sort of style of driving.
Fair enough. That's a very good insight, and thanks for racing. And Peter, would you like to interview anyone else?
Well, I'd like to say I hope you join us for the final 2 rounds, Dennis. It was a pleasure seeing a driver of your caliber racing alongside these drivers who, in their own right in the sim racing world, are very successful. But we hope you do join us for those final 2 rounds. We've got the Red Bull Ring, which will be coming up in 2 weeks' time. So if you would like to get involved with that, sign-ups are still open for racing if a driver cannot make it from one of the current teams. So if you'd like, go over to Race Department. You'll find the Race Department GT Championship. Join the premium membership. It's just €10 for the entire year, I believe. So very, very good quality racing, as we've seen throughout this broadcast, and you can sign up there. But until then, we hope you join us in the next round, and thank you for joining us today.